Okay, we're going to do a close reading now of this poem by Betjeman. It's not a portrait of a deaf man, which it very easily could be. It's on a portrait of a deaf man. So it's a painting of someone deaf, and the poem has been inspired by that piece of art. I think it's remarkable how many poems in this collection have art or have been influenced by art. One thing to consider is, why not name him? Why no name? Why the emphasis on him being deaf and dead, as later what we'll learn he is too. Kind, old, his face, egg-shaped head. It's pretty funny. It's a funny way to remember someone. What you remember of them is funny. The tide discreetly loud. How can you be discreetly loud? That's an oxymoron. Discreet means quiet, subtle. Loud is the exact opposite. I would love to see what it would mean for a tide to both be discreet and loud, though I do somehow have a scene of it in my mind's eye in this city. The loosely fitting shooting clothes. Loose, shoot. That sound. I mean, I very rarely make sound arguments, but there I really hear the billowing material around this. What I'm getting a sense of is a rotund man, though maybe he's not. These clothes are close-fitting shroud. Shroud is the death sheet. And here we get three images of life immediately juxtaposed with that of death. Again, the form continues in these fancy city by city. The city of London is a very small part of actually London. It's where all the bankers and all the fancy old places are to eat, and he liked those old city dining rooms. And potatoes that weren't skinned, they were in their skin. Oh, but it's not the third line this time. It's the second line. Well, it's driven by both. But now whereas his mouth used to be filled with potatoes in their skin, his mouth now is wide to let the dirt come in. He's been buried. I think this image is complex because what I see is a potato that's been baked for so long that the brown skin is cracked and the white overflows. And now that image gets inverted into the mouth being the kind of skin of the potato, and the clay is packed in. So it's almost like one image becomes the other. This is memory. This is what things, when one thing reminds us of another. When everything you look at reminds you of someone you've lost, you become obsessed. You can't shake it, and it seems the speaker here is like that. They went on silent walks because he was deaf. When the speaker went, when he was young, he went with this person, and he knew the names of every bird, but not the song it sung. He knew things. He could name things. But he couldn't hear anything. This stanza doesn't have that explicit switch in the previous two, but as I'm reconsidering it, the fact that he couldn't hear anything then, it's true that he can't hear anything now. And I wonder if that thought has occurred to the speaker, or if that's something I'm bringing to the poem. When he could not hear me speak, he smiled and looked so wise. He remembers his smiles, and his wisdom, and his deafness, and he doesn't want to think about him being dead, rotting, being digested by maggots in his eyes. This is a grotesque image. It's brutal, And here's a very sweet image. But again, one brings the other. The speaker is becoming obsessed with what he'll later call decay, the rotting of death. It's not simply the sweetness of memory, one thing juxtaposed with the other. On these walls, I mean, he loved the air in Cornwall, and when all the soil was pulled up and plowed, and the suggestion there, again unsaid, is he is inside that soil now. I think the poet here doesn't have to flog that point and is able to hold back at times. He was a painter, we learn, and he painted in oil. And he liked big things, bare, empty, huge, large pictures of the horizon and what it encapsulated. But what he didn't like was on Highgate Hill, the cemetery, with its marble, and that place where Londoners are supposed to fill it up. And he would have liked to have shaken the hands of many people, of his friends. But now, one of the most haunting images for me in this poem. But it's okay, he's in Highgate, that place he didn't want to be before. But instead of shaking hands, the speaker sees his bony fingers. But he sees them very vividly. His finger bones stick through his finger ends. There is no hand anymore, just bone. But these are very rough and brutal images, bodily, of rotting, of death, not in a spiritual sense, but in that sense of physical decay and deterioration. And the end of the poem, the poet addresses God personally. You, God, this is what you say. Save his soul and pray. You want me to believe you, but all and only see decay. This is a very visual poem, perhaps connected to the fact that it's almost silent. The shift to the sense of sight is forcing the speaker to see physical decay, and it's challenging his ability to think about the soul, the idea that this deaf man is still alive, or is still flourishing somewhere else immaterial. And he's questioning God, and he wants God. Well, I don't even know if he wants an answer, but he's mad with him. And this is how he expresses his mourning and his loss.